Information on how to watch, attend, and participate, as well as agendas, minutes, and recordings, can be found at Broomfield's website at broomfield.org/council meetings. Public comment is welcome in person or through our call-in service. Instructions for calling in are available on the council meetings webpage. Public comment will be limited to 90 minutes total per item. The first 1 through 15 participants in the queue have 3 minutes to speak. The next 16 through 25 have 2 minutes. And if time remains, the next 26 plus participants have 1 minute to speak. That rarely happens. For our hard of hearing residents present, we have wireless headsets available through our AV team in the back of the council chambers. The council regular meeting is called to order. Council member Henkel is excused, and there are 9 council members in attendance. A quorum, oh, okay, well, 8, now 9. Yay! A quorum of the council is present. We begin this meeting by acknowledging that we gather on the ancestral and unceded lands of the Arapaho, Cheyenne, Ute, and other Native peoples. Indigenous peoples have cared for this land for generations and continue to maintain deep cultural and spiritual ties to it. As the city and county of Broomfield, we recognize the responsibility to honor this legacy and the enduring presence of Native communities. May this acknowledgement inspire action that fosters greater understanding, truth, and respect for Indigenous peoples. Will everyone please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. In an effort to keep order for tonight's meeting, I ask council members to limit their comments to 5 minutes. If council members are given an opportunity to speak a second time, they should limit their comments to 2 minutes. We'll plan on a 10-minute break at approximately 8 p.m. We'll begin with council's review and approval of this evening's agenda. Council may add or remove items from the consent agenda, or council may revise the order of business for the meeting. Does any member of the council have any comments or questions regarding this evening's agenda? Are there any objections to this agenda being approved? Seeing none, the agenda is approved. Our first item under petitions and communications this evening is a proclamation declaring August 2026 as Child Support Awareness Month. Will the representatives here to accept the proclamation please make their way to the podium? And now I will summarize the proclamation. This proclamation recognizes that children are our most precious resource and emphasizes that their healthy growth, development, and future success depend on the support and stability provided by their families. It highlights the important role of child support programs that play in promoting responsible parenting, strengthening families, reducing poverty, and ensuring children receive the financial and emotional support they deserve from their parents. The proclamation also acknowledges the dedication of parents who consistently support their children and the child support professionals who serve families with compassion and integrity. Finally, it recognizes August as Child Support Awareness Month, encouraging the community to raise awareness about the importance of supporting children, empowering families, and helping every child thrive. Would our representative like to make any comments?
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and Council. I am Susan Johnson. I'm the supervisor for the Broomfield Child Support Unit. I appreciate that you're allowing us to come forward tonight for this proclamation asking to observe that August is National Child Support Awareness Month and the opportunity to address the council. We do have a few things. Sorry. Child support, well, we've been involved with child support since we became a county, so almost 25 years ago. It has a huge impact on our children. We have about 703 child support professionals throughout the state of Colorado and the 64 counties that we have. Here in Broomfield, we have 4 staff, 2 part-time and 2 full-time. So we do a lot while we're here. With that, we are part of the top 3 medium counties here in the state of Colorado. There's about 19 medium size, and they are usually staffed between about 4 to 12 staff members for their positions. Here in our county, our staff does everything from getting a case, establishing an order, establishing paternity, and also attending court hearings with our county attorney, establishing orders within our office because they have the authority to do that per the state office, and enforce. And also we move forward to establish and enforce orders in other states and other countries. With that, we also partner with all of the judicial districts here in Colorado. We just don't deal with our Broomfield court. We deal with them all across the county. We also work with our workforce center to help our payors and the individuals who actually receive the child support, work with them, do warm handoffs so that they can move forward with jobs and self-sufficiency. Either party can apply, or actually any party can apply for our services. Either the person who has to pay the child support, the person who receives the child support, or any of the individuals who have custody or parental control over the children. Broomfield collects approximately about $3 million a year for the families, and we always strive on collecting more to help move those families forward. Let's see, do I have? Get all nervous. By declaring Broomfield, or by declaring August National Child Support Month and recognizing it here in Broomfield, it joins the nation to prioritize the success of the children, or success for our children. We also raise awareness by our staff, and this is across the country. Everybody having green shirts celebrating child support awareness, and since it's a national, there's a lot of people that will have outreach and that type of stuff. To go along with that outreach, we have brought ducks. We buy green ducks for our children that we hand out at the office. It's because it's about them. And we also, for the parents and also for the council, we have brought pins to celebrate our Child Support Awareness Month.
Thank you so much. I did forget to say, therefore, as mayor, I hereby declare and proclaim August 2026 as Child Support Awareness Month in Broomfield. So it's been proclaimed.
Thank you.
We'll now move to public comments. If anyone would like to be heard on this, anyone else, please feel free, make your way to the podium, state your name and neighborhood for the record, and limit your comments to 3 minutes, please.
Good evening, Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem and council members. My name is Christina Lynn Craig, and I live in Ward 3, and I've lived there for 34 years in the same house, and I love Broomfield. So as discussions about the proposed Broomfield Town Square continue, I've been wondering.
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant for comments on this proclamation.
Oh, I'm
So
sorry.
That's okay. We have public comments at every item.
Okay,
So it would
I'm
be
very
appropriate
sorry.
for you. That's okay. This would be for general public comment, which
Okay.
I will make sure you know
Okay.
when that's your time to come up, because that's not on the agenda, but you will have an opportunity. So my apologies. Back to the proclamation. Anyone want to comment on that?
Mayor, if I may,
Yeah.
child support is near and dear to me as I look at our green shirts out for CCOB. I started my career at, I want to say when I was 10, but actually I was 23 when I started my career in child support, and what a foundational place to start for leading with your head and your heart, and true servant leaders work in human services. But closest to me will always be child support. So deeply grateful for the kids in our community that you all make sure have what they need. Thank you.
I concur. Do any of my colleagues have any remarks, comments? And if not, would you like to join me in front and we'll take a group picture? We got to get the green shirts.
Yes.
So-
And we also, it would be okay to hand out the pins and the ducks to you and the council? Yes.
Sorry, in August. Green shirts. Are you ready? All right, thank you all for that. I'll let them.
Okay.
All right, next. Under petitions and communications this evening is a proclamation declaring August as Broomfield Government Employees Appreciation Month. We have some special staff guests with us tonight who have worked for the city for over 29 years. Angela Kochevar, Office Manager for Parks, Recreation and Senior Services, Ryan Jensen from the Park Superintendent, and Broomfield Police Department Commander Michael Didon. Will you please come to the podium to accept the proclamation on behalf of staff? And I will now summarize the proclamation. This proclamation recognizes the dedication and hard work of City and County of Broomfield employees whose commitment, innovation, and responsible stewardship help make Broomfield a thriving community. It highlights the essential services they provide every day, from public safety, public health, infrastructure, and environmental protection to supporting vulnerable residents, fostering economic development, and delivering recreation, arts, cultural, and educational programs. Often serving behind the scenes, these employees play a vital role in enhancing the quality of life for all ages. This proclamation expresses the community's deep appreciation and gratitude for their invaluable service and lasting contributions to Broomfield. So let's, almost 3 decades, huh? Would you like to make any remarks?
Hi, I'm Angela Kochevar, and I've had the privilege of being with the City and County of Broomfield in Parks, Recreation, and Senior Services for 29 years. It's been an honor to work with so many awesome individuals and employees across departments. And I thank you for this proclamation. It means a lot as a city and county employee to be recognized and supported. So thank you so much.
Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and Council, thank you very much for honoring the Broomfield City and County employees. Coming here 29 years ago, when I grew up in the area, I always wanted to work for Broomfield, and then here I am in front of you, representing the residents and the employees. And you, bar none, take care of the employees over other cities and counties across the state from what you provide to us and what you recognize us with. So thank you very much.
Commander, I still thought you were a sergeant. When did you get promoted?
January 7th of this year.
Oh, congratulations. We
Thank
missed
you.
that.
And finally, Ryan Jensen, Park Services Superintendent, representing with Angela, the Parks, Recreation, and Senior Services Department. I just want to say I'm very proud to be here as representative of an extremely, I'm humbled, extremely talented and professional group that really I'm very proud to be a part of, and really appreciate this proclamation. And it's awesome to have a celebratory month. So we line up our anniversaries for 29 years with the month of August, which works out just perfect. And so I just wanted to say thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. You definitely have our gratitude. Would anyone like to comment on this proclamation? Please make your way to the podium.
Roxy Jula Lockmore. So I've been here way over 30 years. So I know a lot of these people that are with our city and county since it became a county, before it became a county. So I've known a lot of them. They see me on the streets. They see me walking. They sometimes see me when they don't want to see me, but they still get to see me all the time. So I greatly appreciate each and every one of them. And as long as they keep waving at me and as long as they keep smiling, we're all doing just great in Broomfield. Thank you.
Thank you so much. What about my colleagues? Anyone want to make any remarks? Councilmember Delgadillo.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say briefly, we are the governing body, but you are all the people who do the things and make Broomfield what it is. So very, very grateful for all of your work, all you do. We truly couldn't do this without you. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to echo that. If anybody else wants to go, let me know. That I just receive compliments all the time. And I know how devoted everyone who has chosen to work for the city and county Broomfield is. I mean, you could go anywhere and you chose to stay here. And for that, we are in your debt. And I'm so glad we get this chance to honor that. Would you like to take a group picture in front of the podium with us? Let's do this again. Always a great way to start a meeting, don't you think? So now we're moving on to council member reports. Does any member of the council have any reports or updates this evening? Mayor Pro Tem Lim.
Thank you. On July 15th, I attended the Scientific and Cultural Facilities District Road to Reauthorization Listening Tour at BCC. The community workshop received feedback from Broomfield recipient groups on how to streamline applications and make fund distribution more equitable before the planned 2028 ballot reauthorization measure. And that's in the past, in the future. On August 4th, it's National Night Out. Hopefully you've seen the flashing sign on Sheridan Avenue. Maybe you've seen that already. It is at Broomfield County Commons Park on Tuesday, August 4th from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. There will be interactive learning stations and demonstrations for all ages by North Metro, Broomfield Police Department, and Public Works. Hope you can all come. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other reports from my colleagues? And I'll go ahead and give a quick update. There will be a written report coming, but I did attend the NACO conference in New Orleans 2 weeks ago. One of the sessions was very relevant to what's going on in Colorado right now on land use, zoning, infrastructure, and community planning. It was a focus on how local governments can address housing affordability while maintaining our strong community planning. Housing affordability requires multiple policy tools. And NACO emphasized that no single zoning reform solves the housing shortage. Successful communities combine land use planning, infrastructure investment, permitting improvements, partnerships, and financing strategies to expand housing opportunities. Infrastructure is as important as zoning. Housing production depends on adequate roads, water, sewer, utilities, parks, and broadband. Communities should evaluate infrastructure capacity alongside land use decisions to ensure growth can be supported sustainably. NACO reaffirmed its longstanding position that land use decisions are fundamentally local responsibilities. The organization advocates for federal and state policies that respect local planning authority while providing flexible funding and technical assistance to help communities meet their infrastructure goals. There'll be more on that too, but another common theme was state-led property tax reforms that are threatening county services. We discussed the growing trend of state legislatures adopting property tax caps and other tax limitation measures that reduce local government revenue without reducing the services residents expect. Speakers emphasized that while property tax relief is politically popular, reforms enacted without replacing lost revenue can significantly weaken a county's ability to deliver essential services. We look forward to Councilmember Ward and I's joint report as he attended as well. Thank you. Now, we're going to go to public comments where you can speak on items other than those listed on tonight's agenda. So please state your name and neighborhood for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Thank you
please.
again,
You're welcome.
Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem and Council, and I'm sorry, didn't know the rules.
That's okay.
So I'm Christina Lynn Craig, and I live in Ward 3, Miramonte. And I have lived there for 34 years, and I try and follow what's going on in this community because I love it. So as discussions about the town square continue, I have been wondering if there have been traffic impact studies done and when they were done and by whom. Main Street and 120th Avenue are very busy streets, as you know. And if anyone drives during the school year down Main Street, you can see that it takes a long time to go a short distance. What is the plan for handling traffic during construction? And I'm wondering if the detours would be through adjacent neighborhoods, which are not designed for more traffic than they already have. I also wonder what the estimated increase in traffic will be once the project is completed. I'm concerned about parking, especially by the auditorium and the library, and wonder where people will park during construction and afterwards. And how will access to the post office, library, auditorium, and other city buildings and businesses be maintained during construction of Broomfield Town Square? So I know that this information may be available, and I've tried to find it, but I didn't see it. So if it could be put on the frequently asked questions section of the CCOB page, I would appreciate it, and probably others would as well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Those are all very good questions and concerns. Mayor Pro Tem Lim, were you able to get those down? And since she is the Ward 3 rep, she will make sure that you get those answers. Thank you so much. Anyone else want to be heard on general items? Please come on up.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem and council members. Thank you for giving this opportunity for public comment. I'm going to read off my phone, which is why I have my glasses on. My name's Ailsa Wanacott, and I'm the director of the Association for Community Living in Boulder and Broomfield County. We're a human rights organization, and our short name is the ACL. We exist to create a safe and fair community for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. That's conditions like autism, Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, and other significant disabilities. And my role, and the role of the rest of my team, is to amplify the voices of people with intellectual developmental disabilities And we have an acronym for that as well, which is IDD. So if you ever hear IDD and think, what the heck? Think ACL and a list of other acronyms will come up. But we amplify the voices of people with IDD and their families and the larger communities that they live in. And right now I'm here to speak about a community who's in mourning. And it's the Broomfield Heights community who are mourning the loss of Morris Selden. And my heart goes out to the family and neighbours. We're so sorry for the loss that they've experienced. But it's also a loss to the larger community. The family need to be heard and to get answers, and they need guarantees of actual change. System failure does have solutions once we understand the causes. Some solutions may be things that you've already invested in, which for some reason did not prevent this tragedy. Things like the Blue Envelope program is sadly little known in the community. The police officers, for some reason, are not competent to work with people with disabilities. And those are things that we, can be learned. Especially people in distress with an intellectual developmental disability. There are some real experts in the community, including the ACL, who can be very helpful. And we also want to understand better the important role that the B Corps team could play in preventing this kind of incident again. And I think the other key for the Broomfield Heights community is to ensure the greater involvement of the people who live there. It's a diverse community, and I think they need to have a voice in how they are served by the police department. The family have lost their beloved Morris, and the neighbours have lost a much-loved friend. And trust in the Broomfield Police Department has been affected by this. The community needs some time to heal, but the main message that I'm bringing today is that the ACL is here to help rebuild. We offer training, consultations. We work with police departments and sheriff's departments across 3 counties. We'll do consultations with individual police officers, with families, with an entire community. And we really want to support you to create a more disability competent law enforcement and larger justice systems. I will make sure that I make my, how you can contact me available. And I have a couple of other people here with me who are actually residents of Broomfield. But thank you so much for your time and any support that we can provide to your community as you heal.
Thank you so much. Would anyone else like to speak? Do we? Yes, we do. We're going to bring one over. Thank you. You don't have to get up. You can speak from your chair. But we use the microphone because we put this out online so people at home can hear.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. My name is Rebecca Tolliver, and I live in Ward 3, Broomfield Heights. I'm here to speak also on the tragic death of Morris Selden, who was struggling with autism and mental challenges. As Elsa mentioned, I know Broomfield has a Blue Envelope program. This program allows for drivers and passengers with disabilities and IDD to give officers a blue envelope that explains who they are and that they have a disability and that they need to interact differently. Currently, this program is for use for only drivers and passengers. I would like to call on the City Council to work more proactively with Broomfield law enforcement and medical responders to expand the use of the Blue Folder program to include residents of every disabled individual with a disability in the city and county, not just for vehicles. The outcome might have been different had Mr. Selden had access to a blue envelope in his folder, blue envelope in his residence, as well as the commanding officer if he had seen that folder. I would also like to call on the City Council to work with law enforcement and medical responders to proactively work and highly promote this valuable Blue Folder program so tragic events like this won't happen again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else like to be heard? It's your choice, really. You have the mic.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. My name is Angie Roman Steiger. I live in Ward 1. Hello, ladies. People struggling with mental health issues on autism spectrum is very misunderstood. You will all know someone or will have someone in your life that makes this very real. The shooting of Morris Selden is the second tragedy Broomfield has had. The last incident was 2011, resulting in the death of Kyle Miller. I urge the Broomfield Police to look into to opening a conversation with the Association for Community Living, ACL, to reach out to better understand this precious population. As a growing community, we and you need to show that we really do care. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being here. Anyone else? All right. The next item under the agenda is the 2026 second quarter expense report for elected officials, which was provided on this evening's agenda as item 5A. We'll now proceed with public comments. If anyone would like to be heard, please come up to the podium and state your name and neighborhood for the record, and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Council and staff. My name is Rick Fernandez. I'm in the Broomfield Heights neighborhood. I'm also a founding member of Broomfield Taxpayer Matters. So just here tonight to speak as we took a look at the report that came out in terms of Q2 spending. And we were a little bit surprised to find out that in May of this year, there were 2 trips to Maui, Hawaii, by Councilmember Cohen and Councilmember Hinkle. Total of those trips was $9,363.36 for 2 trips. More ironic to that is this is taxpayer money. So in order to understand what those expenses specifically were, I just file a CORA request today to actually get the receipts and the invoicing and so on. True transparency should mean disclosing those reports without taxpayers having to spend more money to find out what the taxpayer dollars are being spent on. Looking at the $10,000, I look at it 4-page report that was provided by Councilmember Cohen and Councilmember Hinkle. There appears that it was a conference where there was great discussion around wildfire preparedness and disaster recovery. Fires in Hawaii, fires in California, and yes, the Marshall fires that happened in 2021, literally 15 minutes up the road from Broomfield were referenced there. My concern on this is, were there any actions taken by council to actually talk in our conversations happening with Superior and Louisville to better understand what the ramifications of that type of preparedness really mean to the city? Did it require flying to Maui to spend 3 days there to garner those insights? In addition to that, you think about the wildfire risks that have been looked at as mitigation factors for Colorado and for Broomfield. We all know if you go to the northeast part of Broomfield at this stage, if you're in a fire hazard area, your insurance rates just went through the roof. And I am concerned again that it turns into a case of, are we looking at these expenses? Are we spending the time locally as representatives of this community, as opposed to going literally thousands of miles away to a conference for this type of information? The last thing I'll say here, Councilmember Cohen, you have liked to take some swipes at Tabor here recently. Taxpayers support Tabor because they expect elected officials to be responsible with the stewards of the dollars that they have. This is a reason that I am here. This is a reason that we expect that. I would ask for the council, when future decisions are made for these types of trips, to take into account what might be available locally in terms of resourcing and insight, as opposed to spending, again, $9,363.36 for 2 trips to Hawaii. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to be heard? All right, well, we'll now continue with the report section of the agenda. City Manager Hoffman, do you have a report?
I do not, thank you.
All right, thank you. Attorney Rogers, do you have a report?
No, thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Council's consideration of the consent items is next. The clerk will now read the consent items by title, and there'll be one opportunity for public comments and council questions and comments. Will the clerk please read agenda items 6A and 6B by title?
6A, approval of minutes for the special council meeting of July 7th, regular council meeting of July 14th, and special council meeting of July 16th, 2026. 6B, proposed resolution number 2026-96, ratifying the contract with the Denver Regional Council of Governments for caregiver respite, homemaker, and easy ride services.
Thank you. We'll now proceed with public comments. If any residents are using the call-in service, press star 9. If anyone would like to be heard in the room, please come to the podium. Then, does any member of council have any comments on these agenda items or questions? All right, seeing none, is there a motion by council that consent items 6A and 6B be approved? Councilmember Ward.
So moved.
Is there a second? Councilmember Dagadio.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? All right, then council, please cast your vote electronically. All council members have entered their vote and the results will be displayed on the screen. That passes unanimously 9-0. Thank you all very much. The first item under action items is the public hearing and council's consideration on second reading of an ordinance related to adding fiscal impacts as review criteria in rezonings, use by special reviews, planned unit development plans, and PUD plan amendments. I'll now declare the public hearing open. Council has a copy of the agenda memorandum, which I'll ask our staff to summarize.
Thank you, Mayor. Joining us this evening is Judy Hammer. She's our principal planner and is going to walk us through this item. Ms. Hammer, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, City and County Manager Hoffman. Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and Council. Next slide, please. The second reading of ordinance number 2306 proposes adding review criteria for physical impact evaluations related to rezonings, planned unit development plans, planned unit development amendments, and use by special reviews. Fiscal impact analysis will consist of a comparison of the project's direct revenues, including property, sales and use tax generation, to project costs of providing services to the proposed development. Next slide, please. As discussed during the first reading, currently staff prepares a fiscal impact and review revenue analysis for new development and redevelopments, which are summarized in staff reports. In March, during a study session, council discussed with staff updates to the long-range financial plan, and during that study session, staff indicated that they would be developing an analysis that would evaluate the long-term fiscal impacts of certain land uses and development projects. On June 2nd, 2026, council reviewed the ordinance and unanimously approved it, subject to extending the applicability to include use by special review applications. USRs are specific to Chapter 1730-040. Staff amended the ordinance accordingly. Next slide, please. This slide outlines the formal development review process and when information will be shared with applicants regarding the updated review standards. These are included in frequently asked questions, which are posted on the Planning Division website, pre-application meetings, concept plan reviews, development reviews, and agenda memos. Next slide, please. The following slide provides the proposed verbiage regarding Title 1730-070 and 1738-120 with respect to PUD plans and accompanying information and PUD plan review standards and amendments. Next slide.
This slide provides the proposed verbiage regarding titles 1730. And the next slide provides the proposed verbiage for 1748 regarding zoning amendments. The changes are underlined and bolded. If approved on second reading, ordinance number 2306 will be published in full effective 7 days after publication. Next slide, please. This concludes staff's presentation. We're available for questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll now proceed with public comments. If anyone would like to speak on this item, please make your way to the podium. Seeing none, questions from council are next. Do any of my colleagues have any questions on this item? Councilmember Twist.
Thank you. I'm just wondering about the meeting on 6:30, if you can talk just a little bit about that. Was it all developers that were there? What was kind of the general feedback? And then in our memo, it just said there was a note about some questions were asked, but if you can kind of expand on that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, council members. James, if you wouldn't mind bringing up the other presentation that I shared with you. As mentioned by Councilmember Twist, we did have Judy and the planning department put together a forum, if you will. It wasn't obviously a public meeting, but is a public forum that we held. If you could go to the first slide, actually for just a second. So what we did, and if you may recall, council, on March 17th, when we talked about the long-range financial plan, we put together a full council presentation and went through various slides. The presentation that we used was an abridged version of that, that I'll reference probably with a couple of questions that will come up tonight. And if it's okay with the mayor, I'll maybe address the questions that we received earlier today as part of the answer to your question. We had roughly 10 people attended. All of them were developers or consultants for developers. We were on for about an hour. It was recorded so that we can play it again and use it as a reference point. The presentation and the discussion that night was covering two items. One is the implementation of this ordinance if it were to move forward and the changes that would occur and how we would facilitate that working with developers going forward. And the second was more in a bit of detail around the long-range financial plan and how it all fits together and the elements specifically to the fiscal impact. And so that's what we did that particular night. And the questions were primarily focused around what was included in the revenue side and how we were addressing some of the revenue items. Most specifically, there was a large number of questions around sales tax and thinking about how sales tax is used within the model. And then there were some questions around costs and how those are being attributed to the various developments. So those are the two primary questions we received. A little bit on the implementation, but that was relatively straightforward. And Judy handled those questions effectively. So that gives you the quick summary. Mayor, if I may, I'll just go on to the questions we received earlier from one of the council members, asking a little bit more detail in the same vein. So James, if you go to slide 7, I'm going to just kind of run through the questions and paraphrase them if that's okay. If the council member would like to express them with more detail, if I don't answer them in this manner, that's fine. So the question was, what types of standard assumptions and time horizons will govern these analyses, including one-time versus reoccurring revenues, life cycle infrastructure, and downside scenarios? So as you can see, and this is the same slide that we used on March 17th that we shared with them, you can see the way we looked at it was we looked at broad side of revenue that built the model, the long-range financial plan, and the fiscal impact is a element of that and is using the same model approach. And secondly, it does go into and thinks about it both from a reoccurring revenue approach. So one of the questions that was raised in a follow-up to that particular meeting on June 30th, we actually had 2 follow-up conversations afterwards, and that was how are use taxes, as an example, and plan and review fees incorporated into the model. Those are incorporated, and as you all know, we do analysis and we put those into the model. But at the same time, what happens is those are paid in a single year when the development moves forward and it receives its permits. So the use taxes on building material is a substantial number that oftentimes comes forward, and it comes forward when it's permitted. So that particular case, obviously, these developments will last 20, 30, 40 years. And so what we do, instead of obviously counting that as a single year, it's effectively divided based upon the revenue stream that we see from development across the entire cycle of that. If you recall from the long-range financial plan, we're looking at 30-year scenarios. So we're thinking about it across a 30-year period. So we even it across it for all developments, and that's the way that that particular case was. Moving forward, then, the second question was fiscal impact analysis can appear precise and sometimes project incomes in dollars despite depending on assumptions. It moves on and talks about assessed values, revenues, service demands, and future costs, and then goes on to talk about the question was, how are these materialized in later years? So once again, the way that this model works is we talk about it upon the opening and stabilization of the development. So when we're looking at the fiscal impact, we're not looking at it the first year. We're looking at it, we'll say 3 years after it opens or 2 years after it opens. The purpose for that is obviously sales tax, as an example, wouldn't generate. We utilize the sales tax calculations based upon the actual sales tax we received in the previous year. So the actual year that we would have seen was 2024. We're about to update that to 2025 now with the 27 budget that will come out in September. And so we'll update everything to the most current actual year. The purpose for that is we divide the sales tax that we see, that we actually do collect, and we divide it across the development that is occurring within Broomfield. The reason for that is oftentimes, and we all do this, when a new business opens up, we all rush to go to it, and we enjoy that new business with great enthusiasm. Sometimes, as I did most recently with family members, enjoyed a couple of beverages and a dessert because I wanted to try the whole menu. And so we oftentimes do that till we settle into a normal behavior. So the reason for doing it across the way that we do is we see the full life cycle of businesses. Thus, in Broomfield right now, we have some that just opened up recently and some that have been working and operating for 10 years. So it creates an averaging level. So as we've talked about developments, it's not appropriate necessarily to use the sales tax to be collected in that first year and assume it will continue forever. Unfortunately, like me, some businesses get a little bit older in the tooth. And so that's how we attribute that. And so that we therefore have a true life cycle to that business. And I'm being a little bit humorous, but that's really part of the economics of this, is to think about it as a stabilized, ongoing concern. I don't know if it's going to last 5 years. I don't know if it's going to last 40 years. But that's the way we look at it, and that's the same for housing, it's the same for manufacturing, it's the same for everything. Because as you can imagine with manufacturing, the assets within the building depreciate over a normal time schedule, just like all depreciation does in business. In some cases, it's 5 years, 7 years, 13, and so we calculate and think about that from the standpoint of the property taxes that are collected. So that's really what the model is doing. And therefore, as we think about the fiscal impact of a new development that's being proposed to you, we want to get it in the sense of a stabilized condition as opposed to a brand new opening. So that's the reason for doing that. And page, if you go to James 13 and 14, let's go to 13 first. Again, these are the tax revenues that we look at. It's the complete tax revenues. If you go back and open up, or in September when you get the new budget, you go through, you will see all of these tax revenues or fee revenues coming in, as well as intergovernmental transfers and other things. So this is the complete list. Go to slide 14, please, James. It's the next one. And this is the types of costs that we incorporate. The question that we received was, do we incorporate CIP and other capital investments as well as the operating? And the answer is yes. All of that is within the long-range financial plan. If you recall the picture that we gave you most recently on the most update, it had the old house that we always talk about, but we've added the garage to talk about those capital expenses too. And that's what the model is doing, and that's what the fiscal impact model for these projects will do also. The final question then, if I may, is how do we incorporate affordable housing, needed community services, job creations, and other public benefits against an adverse fiscal benefit? So James, if you go to slide 9, we talked about this both in March, and then we talked about it with the developers in that meeting that we held, and this is the presentation that we had. And one of the things you'll see is the service expectations, the infrastructure costs, the labor pressures, and on the list goes. And then going on, you can see, if you go on to slide 10 for the next page, the way that we think about how all of this comes together is, once again, it is done through that last box, which is council policy judgment. So the fiscal impact, both with what this ordinance would bring forward, is one element to your decision-making. It is not holistic. So the most recent example, some of you may recall, roughly a week ago, I think the mayor called it one of the best nights she's had while on council, when 2 affordable housing projects came forward. There was a fiscal impact attached to both of them. They were negative, in part because there was no property tax being generated from either of them. And so it created that environment. So going back to the question, specifically, how do we address affordable housing? Well, one, council has made the decision, and we have a program that says we will offer half of the plan review fees for affordable housing. That's a discount from what is collected at permit. And then the property taxes, if they're in a special limited partnership with Broomfield Housing Alliance, would be waived both for the city and county of Broomfield as well as the other public entities. So we do discount those and would therefore zero the property tax from the taxes coming in. So Mayor, I believe that answers both the council member's question tonight as well as the one we received earlier. But it gives you a background. And again, we did that session. It's been recorded. And again, we had roughly 10 developers there that night. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Romine. Does that work for you? Thank you, Councilmember Twist. Mayor Pro Tem Lim?
Yes, in the original presentation that was posted, there was a sequence on slide 9, which represented kind of the conversation back and forth between developer and staff. So that I understand, well, I've gotten a feel for anyway over the years, the back and forth technically about that process between the developer and staff. Now I'm interested in will there be a back and forth on the fiscal analysis? Will there be, because it says that the applicant may opt to prepare their own fiscal analysis and staff is going to prepare the fiscal impact evaluation. Are we as council going to see 2 independent evaluations? Is there going to be a process in the background of conversation where one is going to influence or impact the other before council sees it? That's my question.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. Mayor Pro Tem, we have thought quite a bit about it. We've actually been practicing this for a while. So at the pre-app, I oftentimes will attend those pre-application meetings with the developer. If they can provide us a bit of information, that's where we intend to run the fiscal impact at that point so that they can see it. So when we give the written responses back to a pre-app or when they first bring in their applications, it'd be part of that response from planning. In that, then they would be able to reach out and we'd have a back and forth. And so there would be some questions, but most of it will be coming through that model. And then if there are questions, we would be able to respond to those. It may be, and this we aren't forecasting one way or the other, but some developers may decide to go ahead and hire an independent consultant. They would understand the perspective of the method that we've been using. And again, we've been using the fiscal analysis approach since 2004 here. So it's been pretty standard and tried and true. We've adjusted it to make sure it's up to date and with the appropriate thinking of development. but they may end up bringing a separate one. There was a instance roughly, I want to say it's about 6 weeks ago, where the developer did decide to retain a consultant and do a separate analysis. There were differences in those analyses, as I think were pointed out in the council conversation. So our intent was not to add additional cost burdens to a developer, recognizing that, again, it's city council's purview to figure out how everything weighs together. And as Judy has stated before, and would probably state again, this is not a barrier that must be addressed. This is one item of consideration. So if it is negative, council may decide because of the affordability or because of what might be happening around other council priorities and community priorities to move forward even if it's negative. And I'll pause there in case Judy wants to add anything additionally. Nope.
No, I think you covered.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Councilmember Peterson.
Yes, thank you. It seems like the model that you're using is being constantly updated with new information along the way. So with any new project, it's just a matter of putting in the numbers that are associated with that project in order to determine its fiscal impact. So the impression I'm getting is that it's not going to be incredibly time consuming for each project to be able to get to these numbers. Is that correct?
Thank you for the question, Mayor Pro Tem and council members. Yes, the intent is a lot of the work is in the model development and how we do that. That if you recall, and several council members will recall this, it takes about a year to update everything, and it's a very elaborate model. There are some core assumptions. We will be providing the report for this model so that it's something that's publicly available so other people can look at it. This isn't our intent to keep it a black box technology or anything. We have done that in the past. We'll do that. We'll be doing that shortly again, where there'll be a report. When we do updates, we try to also bring those to council. So for those of you who've been on council for a little while, I think you've probably seen, I'm guessing at this, Jennifer may know off the top of her head, but I want to say 4 iterations of the House. And every time we come up with that, that is really the representation of the model being updated, either because, as I mentioned, the 25 numbers will come in or some assumptions changing. We try to make sure it's very clear, and we'll continue to do that so that any developer will not be, we're not trying to play a game of gotcha. We're trying to play a point, as council has expressed for my entire period here, of how do we bring the best development forward that advances the community's vision and priorities? And so this is just one of those tools that does that. So we're trying to make sure that we're transparent and collaborative in everything we're doing. Manager Hoffman, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
No, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you both. Thank you, Mr. Roman.
Oh, I have one more question.
Of course, keep going.
I was just wondering, will there be an easy way to access past information if we wanted to compare for example, a new proposed apartment complex, to be able to compare that to the impact of a previous similar project?
Mayor Pro Tem, council members, Councilmember Peters. It's actually been the mayor's question to me for, I'd say, 5 years of keeping track of this. So what we have done starting this year with the projects is we're keeping them in a single worksheet so that every project will be there so that we can keep track of it going forward. Obviously, as the model adjusts, that will adjust somewhat, but we'll try to do that in a meaningful manner. But it is something that honestly, I don't want to say the mayor brings it up every time she sees me, but she has probably brought it up at least once a quarter for the last 3 or 4 years. So it was definitely on the work project.
Okay, thank you very much. Those are all my questions.
And Councilmember Peterson, if I may just quickly, Mayor. So when you're looking historically, when you don't have the same elements, but we have particularly when we started from our catalytic developments, we're doing it with the housing. So it's not just the static model, but you'll be able to, on the big categories, you'll have some consistent reference points, even though some of the elements have been tweaked.
Councilmember Ward.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to follow up a little bit on Mayor Pro Tem Lim's, and I think it's somewhat tangentially related to Councilmember Peterson's question about the financial model. You said we've been using kind of the baseline of this since 2004, roughly. If I understood that answer to question, Council.
Yes.
Okay. Are we using like industry best practices, or was this something we created 22 years ago? And the reason I ask that is, as to Mayor Pro Tem Lim's kind of question about when developers want to bring forth their own financial analysis, are we all using the same kind of baseline metrics and assumptions? Because I think it's one thing for us to, have a financial model and say, these are the things we're putting in, but they're going to look at something completely different. So it's going to spit out two different numbers. I mean, we had that happen with the concept review for a project over on Ridge Parkway. And the numbers completely conflicted. And for us to make a decision when there are nothing's necessarily equal is, I don't think, appropriate.
Mr. Roman, I'm going to start from the 2004 financial plan. The long-range financial plan historically, up until 4.5 years ago, was static. I don't even want to say best practice because it wasn't a model. It was really about here's what we thought was going to happen up north. Here's what's actually happening up north. Here's what the square footage was going to be. And here's what the revenue generated was going to be. So it's less about a best practice model, and it's more about the elements that you're measuring. And so it was morphed from the long-range financial plan being reviewed every 5 years. It was tied to the comprehensive plan. So really the long-range financial plan was an informational document, but it certainly wasn't a decision-making document because it wasn't refreshed. It didn't have all of those various elements. So I think from a best practice perspective, everyone uses the y-axis and the x-axis. What you're anticipating is where the rub is. So if you're anticipating that you're going to be able to, from a commercial perspective, you're anticipating that a development is going to generate X square feet of commercial. X square feet of commercial times what the property tax is estimated to be and what type of commercial development it is, then you best practice go back to those books to say, right now in the market, this type of commercial development is generating X amount of square feet. Light industrial looks different than heavy industrial, looks different than retail, looks different than a whole host of other commercial developments. So then when you have the developers come in, those conversations are, well, we thought we were going to do 500,000 square feet, but actually we're doing 120,000 square feet. So that's where the numbers will change. The variances change. We've seen it in development that we've been coming back, Flatirons Mall, BTS, Baseline, some of those elements that adjust correspondingly every time that x-axis and y-axis, those elements change. So everybody's speaking the same language about what they hope to have happen, what the square footage of the retail, square footage of the residential. Some developers will come back and say, we disagree with the numbers that you're using. We agree with the model because everybody's tracking the same thing. But we think that you're underestimating the sales tax generation from those individuals that are going to be living in that apartment. And then that's where the conversations occur. So when we talk about what's been occurring since 2004, again, it was more of a snapshot versus a mobile interactive model that we can then, with the developers, make those immediate adjustments to be able to say, okay, council, here's what the development thought it was going to do. Here's what it's actually doing. And the only difference, or one of the main differences, is council will now have the ability, where you all haven't before. You haven't had an opportunity to deny a project legally based on the finances. Essentially, that is what this is doing, is it's giving council another reason to be able to say, here's A through F of our decision-making, and this is but one of those decision-making points that you'll now have to be able to say yay or nay based on the direction of council.
Okay.
Nobody's using the same model, Councilmember Ward.
Note.
Okay. I appreciate that because that does at least give us an idea of kind of the historical background, but also why we're seeing such a huge disparity potentially with certain projects. So that'll be my questions for now, but I'll have comments.
Okay. Thank you. Councilmember McKenzie.
Thank you very much for answering the questions. 3 quick ones. Number 1, I think Councilmember a couple weeks or months ago asked, can we see it, the model? Is that possible for council? Or no?
So yeah, what we'll be doing is bringing various elements of the model. It also the long-range financial plan, which is a plan as opposed to a model, will be coming as part of the budget documents in September, I believe, is when that comes forward for the beginning of consideration. As far as the model, it is something we have. It's obviously on my computer. Going back to a little bit of the conversation that the city manager had and council member Ward had, there are differences in models. This is a fiscal model, and so it reflects the costs and the revenues that are generated within the city. And so we do reflect that. And so that model is very much calibrated here. There are models like this around the country. And then we did have AECOM review our model already, and we'll be and GFOA will be looking at the model also. So it's something that we have done. We have provided it. It is a very complex set of worksheets. I don't know a better way to phrase it, but it's something that we are going to bring the fiscal impact model so you could see what it looks like to council. I have shown it to a couple council members when they've come by to ask about it. So it's there. It's there. I don't know a better way to answer that question. I'm sorry.
Cool, thanks. Second one is the retroactive back testing. So am I understanding correctly with the 3-year normalization that the estimate of Lincoln Ave's, the best night ever for Mayor Castriota, of negative $711,000, that in 3 to 4 years' time, we'll be able to say, yes, indeed, we estimated or predicted that we had a net negative of $711,000, and 4 years down the road, it is $711,000 negative.
Well, I'm not going to stand in front of you and say it's going to be $711,432.65 or whatever it was. But it will be within that magnitude and scale, yes. And it will have that negative impact. And that's coming from the information that we have and how we've developed the model. It is not, and it is what is kind of recognized within the state of Colorado and other cities with these types of models and how they turn out. So will it be 650? Will it be 750? We're trying to give you that sense of it. And for those who have been on council for a long period of time, the way the long-range financial plan used to be presented to council, and I may have mentioned this to you, but it used to be in the write-up that it would say the impact is switching it from 1.04375 to 1.04376. And that was not meaningful to most council members, and they would, after I got here, they'd say, what does this mean? And so that's why we switched it over to something that people understand, which is dollars and cents, as opposed to some sort of weighted ratios. So yes, it will be consistent, and it is consistent with what we've seen over the last 7 years that I've been here, that these types of things, will they vary a little bit? Yes. But they are pretty consistent.
Last question is on the magnitude bit that you mentioned. Do we calibrate? So is it a possible scenario that we say net negative 711 grand and a developer comes back and says, no, I think it's net positive $1 million grand or $1 million? And so is our model versus a developer's model roughly within the same order of magnitude ballpark or not? And or if we gave our model's assumptions and inputs to another city's economist, would they come back with a relatively similar order of magnitude ballpark?
So Mayor Pro Tem, council members, yeah. So that's part of the reason we had AECOM look at the model specifically, because it's a fiscal model. It's something similar to what other cities have done, as well as some consultants within the region have done. Not AECOM, I'm sorry. But there are EPS is running a similar model to this that they've been utilizing. This group that used to be referred to as Development Research Partners, Patty Silverstein, some of you may have known her. She was an economist that operated a model for about 30 years here, or 25 years here in the metro area till she retired. The difference that you're talking about in the example that you're using, that was a different style of model. That was an in-out model. It's an in-plan model. It's referred to by BEA, who does the underlying matrices. Those matrices are national matrices or can be sub-geographic, i.e. state, or sometimes metro areas. The difficulty with those models is they don't incorporate the costs. So what does police cost? What does roads cost? All of those very direct. Another model that we recently reviewed on a project that Jennifer and Robert and Anna and others are working on right now, that we're looking at, that model included tax, that they gave us a model that basically included the tax approach that Denver operates and said that's Broomfield's. Well, we don't have an occupational privilege tax here. We have a different tax rate. So we're very careful about using Broomfield's information to calibrate the model and to set up all the tax structures and cost structures. And so I cannot stand before you and say that there will not be wholesale differences between various models that some people will bring forward. But I'm telling you how we do it, i.e. the example is the use tax. We do not look at that as, wow, you're going to give us $1.5 million in use tax this year. Well, then for the next 29 years, you're going to give us zero. So how do I treat that from the standpoint of sustainability of a project on an annualized basis? And if you recall, and I'm relatively precise in my language, you will note every time I talk about fiscal impact, it will always have the word annual, because I really want to understand it from that perspective, because we live on annual budgets here. So I'm not here tonight, nor will I be in any council meeting telling you what is good about another model or why I disagree with it. I can tell you why our model works for us and why it fits with what you all face from a fiscal impact side.
And Councilmember McKenzie, if I may, whether they're developers or not, developers are very optimistic. That's why they're developers. So their performers are also very optimistic. So even in it's going to happen quicker. It's probably going to happen more fiscally than they're anticipating. And the time frame is probably going to be shorter. So again, it's really the fidelity of the model that allows council to make decisions versus influencing what the conversations are. And that's really the difference between the model circa 5 years ago and the model that we have now. it allows for some of that buoyancy between super optimistic, very, very conservative, somewhere right in the middle, and also long-term.
That conclude your questions, council member? Well, having, anyone else before I go? All right. Having been here for 9 years, I've knew from day one that the fiscal impacts, of our land use assumptions were very important. Some people remember Pat Soderberg, our former finance director, and whenever there was a request for a rezoning, she would show up here in person with her binder and pretty much lecture us on how this will hurt our long-range financial plan. But you're right, it was a static snapshot in time of the land use assumptions of that time, right, with no other variables. But it was important, and you can verify this. Why is it important to for us to really be on top of the fiscal impacts, Mr. Romine? And I'm leading into the balance of revenues that we require in order to offer city and county services.
Well, and Mayor, I don't, since you didn't prep me, I don't know how I'm
You
supposed to
did.
answer this, but let me just say it in two ways. One is we're trying to understand the true outcome, and how it fits within the community. And things are supposed to balance. You know, in some cases, you will approve things that are really beneficial to the community and have a negative fiscal impact. Other things that will be just strong for the community, and, you know, it just cranks a little bit of money, and pays for the police and the library and those types of things. The other thing I would say, and one of the difficulties in your work is that Broomfield, and I said this earlier to another council member earlier, is we don't necessarily need to be the lowest taxed place or the highest. What oftentimes business looks for, developers look for, is the reliability and the consistency. And that is something that has really been a hallmark, the value, and how you know what you're going to be getting 5 years from now. And so what this council and all of your predecessors have done is created a very reliable system that says, hey, what you're getting, what you pay, you're going to get great services and you're going to get great outcomes, i.e., you know, for a business, there's no potholes while you're driving your truck there that misaligns the semi, which is far more expensive a misaligned semi than a car to fix, and tires blow and all of that, and cargo gets damaged. At the same time, and this is just the realities of Broomfield, the sales tax and the property tax rate has been consistent for 25 years here. And so while there's other communities that perhaps have different things going on and have adjusted those tax rates over the years, that ability to provide quality services has been done through thoughtful development and bringing forward in that way. So, Mayor, I have no idea if I've come anywhere near what you thought I might answer, but that's the way I think of it from an economist standpoint and from my 30 years of working in this kind of realm.
No, that was great, and I appreciate that. So just to put a pin on that, we have never raised our mill levy since we became a county in 2001, correct? So 25 years.
Nor sales tax,
Or sales tax.
nor any tax for
25.
that matter. D, all of the above.
Let it be known. All right, well, thank you. Anything else from my colleagues before we vote on this? All right, then there being no further questions, the public hearing is closed. Next is council's consideration of proposed ordinance number 2306. Will the clerk please read the proposed ordinance by title?
7A, ordinance number 2306 to amend chapter 17-30, chapter 17-38, and chapter 17-48 of the Broomfield Municipal Code regarding the standards of review for planned unit development plans, planned unit development plan amendments, rezonings, and use by special review.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the ordinance on second and final reading and order published by title? Councilmember Anderson?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second? Mayor Pro Tem Lim?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Ward?
Thank you, Mayor. I have honestly hemmed and hawed about whether I want to approve this or whether I want to vote to approve this or not. I think there are instances where it is it is appropriate for us to use this as a metric in determining whether a project should be approved or not. But I also look at the other end where there is the potential for this to be misused, where we might look at specifically housing projects. This really is what this is aimed at. And say, we don't want to put it there because it's going to hurt the financial model that we have created. And we don't necessarily want to have, future councils won't necessarily want to have hard conversations about what does level of service look like, who actually is going to pay for them. Are we actually going to request that the residents pay for the services that they want instead of doing what we've done for 20 years, which is please do more with nothing else? And so I think I will vote for this, but I do caution my colleagues, current and future colleagues, that this should be used very sparingly and should not be kind of the go-to factor when we are looking at a conversion from commercial to residential, because we are going to see a lot more of that as this community continues to mature and infill development becomes more of a requirement than I won't even call it a luxury, but I'll say luxury for right now. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you very much. Anyway, any other discussion? Mayor Pro Tem Lim.
I want to thank staff for bringing this forward. I appreciate that we have this factor to consider in our land use considerations going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, seeing no further discussion, we'll move forward to the vote on ordinance number 2306. Council, please cast your vote electronically. All council members have entered the vote and the results will be displayed on the screen. That passes unanimously, 9-0. Thank you all very much for your work on this. And our next item under action items this evening is this council's consideration of a resolution approving the Third Amendment to the Northlands Planned Unit Development Plan. Councilmember Cohen, as an employee of UC Health, will be recusing himself from this discussion and vote. And we're now leaving the room. Council has a copy of the agenda memorandum, which I'll ask our staff to summarize.
Thank you, Mayor. And joining us this evening is Brandon Rowe. He's our planning manager and extremely familiar with this project. Mr. Rowe, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Manager Hoffman. Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and City Council. Again, Brandon Rowe with the Planning Division. Could I get the next slide, please? The property is located on the northwest corner of the I-25 and Colorado 7 interchange. It probably looks familiar because you all saw it a little bit earlier this year when this overall project came in for a concept review. This evening, the focus of the application is just the PUD text amendment that's going to focus on parking ratios and building height. We did get a couple questions in advance of the meeting, so I do want to point out, and I'll try to integrate those through the presentation tonight. With this being focused purely on those two elements, future site design elements like how much parking, the total number of parking, lot coverage, bike path, trails, sidewalks, shade coverings, landscaping, all of that sort of stuff will come from in this future application. The applicant has it in under review, so it's a separate quasi-judicial application. And that will be coming to City Council later, we anticipate later this fall or early winter, depending on scheduling. So I say that because tonight you'll hear me talk about two things, whereas development, we usually talk about a lot of things. So I just want to give that sort of framework, and I'm happy to answer any questions as we go through if there's clarification needed. So this, again, is located on the north side of Colorado 7. Next slide, please. So I'll dive straight into the first of the two requested amendments by the applicant. This would be, the first amendment would be to the design guidelines and standards section on the first page of a 2-3 page PUD plan. And this is purely to establish parking requirements within the PUD plan for hospitals and medical office and clinics. The applicant is using surrounding development as the inspiration for these parking ratios. So they looked actually to the south at the North Park development, which is the largest master plan development in this general area, to mirror the parking that's already approved in that development for consistency along the corridor. So the applicant is proposing to add specifically 2 parking space per bed plus 1 parking space per 300 square feet of outpatient clinic or service areas for the hospital use, and then a parking ratio of 1 space per every 200 gross square feet of floor area for the medical office. At this time, the applicant's future application will just focus on the hospital and medical office for that campus, and then each other use would come in. I want to note that other uses, be it residential, hotel, commercial, retail, based on this amendment would still default to the Broomfield Municipal Code for parking requirements. This is only focusing on those 2 specific uses. Next slide, please. So that got compressed, but the table shows the existing building heights that are established in the PUD plan, which you can see the uses of corporate office, commercial, retail, hotel, residential, all have a maximum building height of 60 feet currently in the approved PUD. The applicant is proposing, again, to amend this document to establish a specific building height just for medical office and hospitals. That would be 150 feet height that they're proposing, maximum. And that's just the maximum threshold. That doesn't mean that that future application that you'll see will be up to the 150 feet, but that would be something that you would be able to review in more detail with that future application. This also means that future development around the hospital within the Northlands development, be it residential or hotel, would still have to default to that 60 feet. There's no changes being proposed for those additional uses at this time. And next slide, please. So, like I said, this application really focused on just those 2 key elements. Looking at the overall project, there was a concept review held on February 17th of 2026 for the development for the medical hospital campus. Those discussions also included the potential for a PUD amendment, which is why we're here this evening. LERC held a public hearing on the proposed amendment June 22nd, so a couple weeks ago. And the commission voted to recommend approval of the amendment unanimously with no conditions. The neighborhood meeting was held for the proposed development, including the PUD amendment on March 4th, so a couple weeks after that concept review earlier this year. And then to the best of staff's knowledge, the public hearing notice requirements have been met. I do want to point out that there were 2 typographical errors that were identified in the staff report. So under the neighborhood meeting discussion, there was a notation that referenced a prior project, the Center Street development. That was an accidental typo, and I apologize for that. But the notes that were linked in the or in the memo itself were for the correct neighborhood meeting. And then there was a notation that one of the references in the resolution attached to tonight's packet referenced the Land Use Review Commission and not City Council. That was a Scribner's error, and it has been corrected. So the final version, if this project were to be voted to be approved tonight, will reflect the correct terminology. But we wanted to address that both of those were identified, and one has been corrected and the other, I apologize. Next slide, please. So again, if the resolution is adopted, it would approve this 3rd amendment to the PUD plan and just add those 2 land use development dimensional elements. So the parking ratio and the building height. Any actual development proposal will require a future public hearing. And staff has not identified any key issues with the development this evening. That concludes my presentation. The applicant is here as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rowe. Will our applicant please make their way to the podium?
Good evening. My name is Mike Chahowski. I'm Vice President for Facilities Design and Construction for UC Health. I'm also joined here by Ryan Roman, our President of the Longs Peak and Broomfield Hospitals. He's here in case you ask me any real tough questions. So first off, I'd like to start by recognizing that you started this meeting with a proclamation on staff. And I would like to say, as UC Health, we work across the entire state, and your staff have been outstanding to work with. We've really enjoyed the opportunity to work with their planning department in particular and help us solve some of these challenges we've had across this project. As Brandon noted, we'd like to also remind you, we are coming back with the full site development plan where you'll be able to ask us all the questions you want later. But it was important that we bring this before we submit our final. We're ready to submit our third submission on the review. But obviously, if you don't approve this, we have to make changes to that submission before we put it in. So it was important that we come in this order and have this discussion today. So first, the next slide is on the height and what we're requesting. So when we first met with the city staff, one of the things that was talked about was really how much you wanted us to preserve as much green space as possible. And part of that is increasing the density of our site. So we looked at, instead of having a shorter building that took up more land, we wanted to have a little bit taller building, use less land, and have more green space available in development, as well as more space for other developments that may generate tax revenue. So that was all part of the discussion. So as we looked at it, we looked at trying to have a building that was also comparable to other buildings along the I-25 corridor, other hospitals along that corridor, and make sure it fit. So across the street, they have a 265 height limit. We don't want to go anywhere near that. We think 150 is more than enough. Our current building that we showed is right about at 136 feet right now. We're still playing with that arch. It may come down a little, it may go over. We'll have that finalized in the next week or two. But that's about where it stands. On to the next one, which is the parking. So with the parking, we still really support public transportation, other uses such as pedestrian and bicycle access, but we recognize we need to have adequate parking for patients who come to the hospital. So we did take a good look at other hospitals that we have. We benchmarked our other hospitals. We looked at, that was actually one of the questions too that was provided to us, is where we look at this request. Not only does it mirror the across the street development that Brandon referenced, it also mirrors our other hospitals, give or take a little bit. So some of them have 3 spots per hospital bed. This one's 2, and some have 4.5 per 1,000 instead of 1 for every 200 square feet, but more or less, they're almost all the same. We looked at our 5 most recent hospitals, and they're all very similar. We also looked at utilization of that parking. We don't want to overbuild parking. Anybody who has seen the cost per stall to build parking lately knows you don't overbuild parking. It's unfortunately really expensive to build parking. So we want to make sure what we build, we use. So we looked at 3 of our hospitals recently, and we're using between 90 and 95% of the parking on a regular basis that we build. So that's where we stand today. Again, this is consistent with where we're at. I think one of the other questions was looking at this out of the 110 acres. Now, this is lot 1, which is about 70 acres. We'll be coming back with parcels 2 and 3 later for different site development plans. Within this, about 8 acres is parking, and of that, about a 1/4 acre is the landscaped medians within that parking. So with that, I open up to any other questions anybody may have for us on the height or parking.
All right, thank you very much. We'll now proceed with public comments. If anyone would like to speak on this item, now's the time.
Roxy Jula Lockmore. These hospitals have been kind of a problem in my mind. Down on 144th, we have a beautiful hospital sitting down there. Now we're going to end up with 2 hospitals up here at our interchange. Luckily, if they ever get motels and stuff, we might be making some money off of them. But otherwise, I guess the hospitals we really don't make anything off of. But my other thing is right now, I don't mind the height. I don't care. They can go sky high as far as I'm concerned. Just make it to where the helicopter can be safe when they come in. The only thing I do, and I'll always say it, you need a parking structure. Quit using land and open it up. It gets black tar. It's hot. There's no trees. You can't put the trees in there. You put the wrong trees in, they got to be cut down. Now you're back down to nothing but asphalt or concrete. Then it's hot again. So if you can, we need a parking structure and take up less land. You can go up high with the parking structure, and it's your money. So, but it's our neighborhood. It's our CCOB. So quit using the land and making it hot and making it hard for everybody else. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Garrett Baum with Palisade Park, Palisade North, Palisade West, and individual property owners in those developments as well, and a neighbor to this proposed project. Mayor Pro Tem, City Council, staff, thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. Number of things I'd like to share. First of all, I've been developing in Broomfield for over 30 years. I've worked with a lot of adjacent property owners and developers. And I found UC Health to be wonderful to work with. I had never done business with them in the past. They've been collaborative. They've been forthright. When they say they're going to do something, they've done it. And I respect that and I appreciate it. Second of all, they're coming in with a plan that talks about height and talks about parking. And obviously, I've dealt with that with all of you and past councils in the past as well. I would like to point out that Children's Hospital to the west at Palisade Park, which I worked on, has a similar height that they are allowed to do as well. Their initial building was 5 stories. Well, the first building was a single story. Their next phase, which they completed, which is 250,000 feet, is 5 stories. But they do have a parcel for expansion, and that I believe is over 150 feet in height. So I think you're going to see similar types of heights in the area that have already been approved. So I wanted to share that. And lastly, I wanted to bring up something that previous Mayor Randy Aarons had said years ago, which was, you can be born in Broomfield, or you can die in Broomfield, but you can't be born in Broomfield. And that was back in 2008 or 9 or 10. And we were successful in bringing Children's Hospital to the community. And I say community, I don't take it lightly. I think that the addition of Children's Hospital was important for Broomfield. I understand that we've talked about the fiscal impacts and hospitals and for-profit versus not-for-profit. But I believe strongly that another hospital, and in particular this hospital that UC Health is proposing and planning for the community, will be as important a project today and going forward as Children's Hospital has been, and what they've done for the community and for the area. So as a neighbor, someone that's developed in the community a long time, someone that has really surrounds what they're doing, I'm not only supportive of their project and what they're proposing tonight, but also supportive of UC Health and what they're going to do for Broomfield. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Baum. Anyone else? All right, then. Questions from council are next. Are there any questions from my colleagues? Councilmember Ward.
I'll go ahead and break the ice. I do have some questions for staff, but I want to give them time to pull up the existing Broomfield Municipal Code because I just want to make sure I know the current requirements properly. For the applicant, though, you did an analysis of other properties you have owned up and down I assume up and down the Front Range, but certainly the Denver metro area. And you came up with a number of 90 to 95% usage on a pretty routine basis. in that analysis, did you do a distinguish between patient/visitors and hospital employees?
No, we looked at total usage of the parking because both use it.
Okay.
It's very difficult to tell where the staff ends and the patients begin in some of our parking lots. It's not a dedicated lot for
Well,
staff versus
That
patient.
I do understand that. I think it would be relatively easy to know how many employees you have, and most of them are probably driving. I'm going to move on to staff real quick to answer this question. My first question is, so currently the Brimfield Municipal Code states that hospitals will have 1 space per bed. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Wonderful. And then medical offices have 3.5 spaces per 1,000 square feet of general floor area.
That is correct.
Wonderful. Thank you. Would it then also be fair, since the way the amendment is proposed in this application and the presentation tonight is, so hospital's asking for 2 parking spaces per bed plus 1 space per 300 square feet. That's obviously just going to be higher than what Brimfield Municipal Code offers. But for medical offices, it says 1 parking space for every 200 gross square feet of floor area. So to do a 1-to-1 comparison, really we're looking at 5 spaces per 1,000 square feet of gross floor area. Would that be a correct?
Sorry, I had to do math in my head
Mathematical
real quick.
equation?
That's correct, yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. Those are all my questions right now.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you. I don't have any specific questions about the parking ratio, but I am just curious if you could address the structured parking question that was raised and why parking lots are being built as opposed to structured parking. And that's beyond the scope of tonight, but maybe any thoughts you have there?
Sure. So we are master planning the entire campus. So we're looking at not only what we're proposing today, but the long-term growth. And in the future, we would look to add, when we add future bed towers, we would look to move to structured parking. There is a preference amongst users to park on a surface lot than they are to park in a structured parking. Employees, maybe they like structured parking sometimes, in particular in January or February when we get a snowfall, not this year, but other years. But for the most part, people do like surface parking. So we've started with that, and we would move into structured parking as we grow.
Okay, thank you for that information. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Any other questions from council? All right, then if there are no, oh, sorry, Councilmember Peterson.
It's not about the parking, but in our memo, it references 2 abandoned oil and gas wells. And it says that Broomfield recommends that those wells be incorporated into the landscaping. I'm wondering if that is also the developer's plan.
Yes. So we are not, even though we would be allowed to park over it, we can't build a structure. We have agreed with the city's request, and we will landscape around the abandoned wells. That way, if for some reason in the future there is an incident or something, it should be visible instead of being covered over, and we could respond to it quicker. But we don't anticipate any issues. But we have incorporated it into landscaping features.
Okay. And I also just wanted to point out regarding the height that the fences around Topgolf are 175.
Didn't know that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, well, any other questions? Last call. All right, seeing no other questions, next is council's consideration of proposed resolution number 2026-95. Will the clerk please read the proposed resolution by title?
7B, resolution number 2026-95, approving the Northlands Planned Unit Development Plan Amendment number 3.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the resolution? Councilmember Delgadillo.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second? Councilmember Peterson.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Ward.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to stand up on my soapbox now, and what I'm about to say probably won't surprise anyone in this room. I think to allow for medical office clinics specifically 5 times what the current code offers is ridiculous. I think to more than, I would say probably triple the hospital capacity than what code currently permits is ridiculous. We cannot continue to develop our lands in this suburban mentality. It's not sustainable. It's not good for the environment. It's not good for us fiscally. And so because of that, I can't vote to approve this. We need to be incentivizing people. I know for patients, that's one story. Visitors are another story. But hospital employees, certainly, we can try and incentivize more to not drive to work. And I don't see that as being a priority with this proposal. So I will not be voting to support this. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Any other discussion? Well, I have a question for staff. So with RTD's obvious budget catastrophe looming, and they're about to cut 6 of the 10 routes that Broomfield currently barely has, and this mythical Highway 7 bus rapid transit that I've been hearing about for 9 years, that's why we have to build the density. Is there any transit service up there at all? Any? Since they're gonna cut the flex ride too, which isn't even, guaranteed, because if they're already at capacity, you don't get a ride. Any updates on that?
Nothing more than what you just said.
Okay, so we have no guarantees of any transit on Highway 7
Not at
in
this,
and north area of Broomfield, none.
not at this time.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other discussion? Council, please cast your vote electronically. Councilmember Twist, did you, okay. Any other, and Councilmember Cohen? Oh, he's gone. Okay, all council members have entered their vote and the results will be displayed on the screen. That passes 6-2 with 1 recusal. The 2 noes are Councilmember Twist and Councilmember Ward, and Councilmember Cohen is the recusal. All right, well, thank you very much. There are no mayor or council member requests for future action this evening. Is there any other business to come forward before the council from my colleagues or staff? There being no further business, the council meeting is adjourned. Thank you.